just a social mixer so that we get to chit chat. We can follow up on conversations that we have here online. You can hang out and get to meet people that could be your mentors or your peers that are going to be growing through this career shoulder to shoulder with yourself, and have a couple of beers, have a few snacks, and enjoy yourselves. Um, Also, if you have any questions that you want to interject on, please use the chat, and one or several of our co-hosts, including myself, as we're going through the presentations and the discussions, we're going to be monitoring the chat and interject with relevant questions or comments. Um, all right. Any questions so far on our format change and what we're trying to do here? Anybody horribly displeased? Okay. If you are, I don't want to hear about it. No, seriously. If this is we want to hear from everybody, and we're trying to accommodate a pretty wide audience, and I know this is impossible to do 100% for everybody, but we definitely do want to hear from you, and we will try to do whatever is possible to accommodate and make this interesting. Also, as we're going through this transitional period and experimenting with what we're going to do, feedback is really going to be highly appreciated. Like I said, we're in a little bit of a guess mode, what will be appealing to our audiences. And the more we hear from you, the better we can make this. Just 4 or 5 of us that are in the leadership, it doesn't mean that we know everything. Our job is to actually represent you. So please tell us what you want. And if you don't know what you want, that's okay. You can tell us that as well. Uh, so let's move on to the program. We're meeting here today for the lunch datum, but this is our first session, and we're going to be talking about the monument pedigree. And this is a session targeted towards perhaps earlier career professionals. We're going to talk about what is the fuss with the monument pedigree, why would we call it this, you know, you'll hear the details. And without further ado, I would like to introduce the panelists. We're going to try to run this as a roundtable panel discussion. We do invite audience participation, especially if there's quiet moments and you find a spot where you want to ask a question, please do so. Or if we're in the middle of a presentation and a lively discussion, put your question in a chat and we will try and get to it as soon as it is appropriate. So to introduce our panelists, um, I'm Connie Barrett. I'm at Michael Baker International. I'm also the Orange County chapter president, and I will be your moderator. Our first distinguished panelist is Tony Cuomo with Stantec. And Tony, I always get your title wrong. What is your title at Stantec?
I really don't have one.
Okay.
Yeah, I just general survey guy.
Okay. So
Yeah.
so Tony is pretty much the head honcho at Stantec. And Tony's going to kick us with the introduction to the monument pedigree as soon as I'm done introducing the panelists here. The next panelist is Bryan Mundia, who is very instrumental at LA County Department of Public Works, and he has done a lot of work with Eaton Fire Monument recovery. And Bryan's going to give us an update and talk a little bit about the challenges and what they're facing with Eaton Fire and how that's affected the monument conditions and whatever else Bryan has up his sleeve. The next two panelists are a former and a current county surveyor. Kevin Hills is a very recent former Orange County surveyor who we have shamelessly stolen to work for us at MBI and also my supervisor. Thank you, Kevin, for putting up with me. And we also, I believe, have David McMillan here, who is the Riverside County surveyor. Riverside Transportation and Land Management Agency. Kevin and David are going to be talking a little bit about monument databases and monument preservation and save our monuments brochure potentially. We'll see. I'm leaving this open to the panelists to agree. Jay Seymour, who has Jay, I don't know why I mispronounce your name all the time. Who is with Orange County Public Works and has graciously accepted to participate at a last minute. And David Bush, both of whom also with Orange County Public Works. And David Bush is our vice president this year at OCCLSA. There are your people in Orange County who deal with corner records, and they will tell you the basics of corner records, why we do them, why the monuments are so important. Tiffany Padilla is one of our up and coming professionals here. Tiffany works at KDM Meridian, and she's also a second year running Orange County CLSA treasurer. And Tiffany is a map checker extraordinaire. She is one of the people who actually gets to see a lot of maps and understand what's happening in the business out there. So Tiffany's here representing basically the staff map checkers that can explain to you and give you a little bit of the pain points that they have to do as they're interpreting maps and trying to understand how a certain map was surveyed. So thank you everybody for coming. Thank you panelists for coming here, being willing to talk. And with that, I will turn it over to Tony Cuomo.
Thanks, Connie. I really appreciate the opportunity to address the group and to be a part of this panel. I'm looking at the names on this panel, and I've known just about everybody on this panel for a long, long time, and it's a real pleasure to be presenting today. A brief introduction of my history. I started surveying in 1974. I got my LSIT in 1980, got my California license in 1988. Worked in and around Orange County, and about 6 years ago moved out to the Phoenix area. Currently work with Stantec, and I manage projects pretty much across the Western United States. A little bit about why we're here. I don't really ever want to say that this goes without saying, but the Orange County chapter has always been a leading chapter in the state organization, and it has always been a practice-based chapter, and that's what really sets Orange County, the Orange County chapter that you all are a part of, for the most of you are a part of, apart from most survey organizations. And it's ongoing mentoring and ongoing education like this that really sets it apart. So I want to thank Connie and the officers for putting this together. It's a great opportunity, and hopefully a lot of you will get something out of this. I'm going to start the discussion in a general sense. My colleagues who are going to follow me are going to talk about some very specific issues and very vital, important issues, but I want to talk about monument preservation, monument pedigree in a very general sense. One of the things that we think we do is measure, and that's one of the things that we do. But conceptually, what we do as professional surveyors is communicate. Whether it's a well-written cut or fill stake on a lath on a construction project, or a well-written legal description, a well put together subdivision map or record of survey. These are all communications to surveyors in the future who are going to rely on our data to move forward with whatever project that they are going to be working. In that vein of communication, one of the most important things that we can take care of is the monument pedigree. What does that mean? The monument pedigree simply means the chain of title on a particular monument, the chain of evidence on a particular monument. When was that monument set? What was the original monument? Was that monument destroyed or tied out or perpetuated successfully? Are you using the monument that you think you are using? These are all things that go into the pedigree of a monument. Think of the analogy of a criminal investigation. there's a piece of evidence, and it's important to the investigation. And in that investigation, various people will need to examine that evidence. Let's say it's a gun. The ballistics people are going to need to examine that gun. Well, they go to the evidence locker and they sign out a bunch of paperwork, and they take the gun and they bring the gun back and they sign in a bunch of paperwork. And then the fingerprint guy needs it, and he does the same thing. And then the attorneys want to see it. And every time that piece of evidence is used, its transfer and return is documented. That piece of evidence, that gun in this analogy, has a pedigree. And you know the consistency that it's always the same gun that comes back, that was taken out, that was returned, that was removed, that was replaced. Monuments are one of the key pieces of evidence that we use every day as professionals in order to make a map, in order to create a right-of-way, centerline alignment, the property boundary. And we need to know the chain of evidence, the pedigree of the monuments that we're looking at on the ground to ensure that they are occupying the position that we think they're occupying. And that falls on all of you in this room in one way or another, whether you work in the field and you're taking down a monument description, whether you're processing field data and you're interpreting the monument description, whether in Tiffany's case, you're checking a map and you want to make sure that the person who's doing that map is using the right evidence and therefore being led to the right conclusions. It all starts with tender loving care and extreme diligence in creating a monument description that can be used, that's not in a secret code, that is comprehensive, that tells the next person, this is the monument that I found, and I'm leaving an evidence for you, the next guy, of exactly what this monument is. Oftentimes, monument pedigrees get interrupted. There's an original monument, maybe it's found on a map, maybe the next map doesn't find the monument and sets a monument in that position. Maybe it doesn't find the monument and it just accepts the position and move forward. There's all kinds of weeds that we could get out into. But what's critical to our profession, as the only profession who is authorized to subdivide land, it's critical to our profession that we go out of our way to maintain an uninterrupted monument pedigree of every monument we find and set. And it's critical to not only the online real-time success of what we do, but it's super critical to those who are going to follow in our footsteps. And if we don't leave tracks for those people who are going to follow in our footsteps, they're going to get lost in the woods, and they may be led to false, erroneous, or basically incorrect conclusions because we didn't leave them the evidence. Kind of in closing, we are communicators, and we need to communicate to each other about this very critical issue of monument pedigree. A monument description is such a vital tool. And I was on the phone with Connie this morning, and I said, Connie, yesterday I picked up a map, and it was an ALTA done by a colleague out here in Arizona. And there was 3 very important boundary points on this map. And the monument description on the ALTA was FB period BCM period. Okay, found brass cap monument. All right, that's an intelligible abbreviation. I don't think it's appropriate on a map, but there was no note, and I've been around a while, so I was able to figure out that it was found brass cap monument. But was that monument flush? Was that monument in a well? Was that monument stamped or punched, or did it have any specific identification? I couldn't tell from the descriptions on that map. Now, when I went to the public record, each one of those 3 locations were in fact a brass cap monument. They were all 3 in wells, and they all 3 had distinctive individual stampings and punch marks and indications and all that good stuff. But the monument pedigree was broken with the map I was looking at. It was an incomplete description, and that surveyor didn't leave tracks for the surveyors who are going to follow in their footsteps in the future. And so I just want to challenge each and every one of you. I know that there's the old guard is well represented here today in this group, but I see a lot of new names and a lot of new, new indications, and it's critical that you take the lead in your company, in your organization, in your agency, and make sure that your monument descriptions involve every single detail about that monument. Is it a found monument? Is it a record monument? Is it an unrecord monument? What's the characters of the monument? Is it up? Is it down? Is it flush? All these things need to go into that proper propagation, that perpetuation that will allow monuments to carry that pedigree into the future for as far as you can see. So with that, I appreciate the opportunity to speak today. I hope I've struck a chord with some of you. And Connie, thank you very much for the opportunity, and thanks for the great job you're doing with the chapter.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Tony. We appreciate you. Couple of comments from the chat. Steve Martin said that, secret code equals abbreviation. We want to avoid abbreviations. And Tiffany also added, if you're going to use abbreviations, put a legend on your map or a corner record explaining what those abbreviations mean. And just like Tony explained, we all find ourselves, even the old timers, in a position where you're wondering what exactly this monument is. Or, a topic as of late has been pin cushions lately. And we're actually pretty fortunate in California that we don't have a high volume of pin cushions. But what if you encounter a pin cushion and those monuments are close but slightly different? If nobody has documented that, um, you're going to be out of luck, and the liability of trying to figure this out falls on you rather than the original surveyor. Tiffany, you have your hand up.
I was gonna say, Tony's comments ring true with us. I would say it's so common that we have a check legend where we put an asterisk next to the monument where we request up or down, any stamping, is it record, and what material what it was found in. Was it found in dirt? Was it found in AC? Was it found in concrete? Just because, and it might not be required for the subdivision ordinance of the city we're checking, but we still request it because it just helps the next person along. Like the next surveyor who sees that map is going to be able to tell, oh, they found this monument in dirt. I'm looking all around. I got AC everywhere. There's a good chance that monument is no longer here, or it's going to be a lot harder to find. So all those things are just stuff I know that our company requests on every map we check. It's so common not to have it that we literally just have a symbol that we add and have a legend, because it's just one of the common things that we see when they come in the first check that have no information on it whatsoever.
Thank you, Tiffany. Tony, you have your hand up.
I just wanted to add one more thing, and I can't believe I left this out. And this might be a point of contention with many of you here, but there's a phrase that is almost always abused in a monument description, and that is "in lieu of." Found 3-inch brass cap stamped City of Running Springs in lieu of gear spike stamped RCE 12345. Thank you, Tiffany. Tiffany, I don't want you to throw your neck out doing that, but
not in lieu of.
In my opinion, and I have a long history in the map checking sector. In my opinion, the only proper use of the phrase "in lieu of" is if you find a monument with the same registrant of a different character than it is noted in the record. In other words, found leaden tack stamped LS 6042 in lieu of 1.5-inch iron pipe with tag stamped LS 6042. You can't substitute one type of monument for another and call it in lieu of. If you're looking for a particular character of a monument with a registrant stamping, and you find a different character with the same stamping, then the phrase in lieu of is, in my opinion, is used properly. You can find something and accept it as occupying the position of a monument of a different character, but that phrase in lieu of is has a very narrow bandwidth in its proper use. And I just wanted to put that out there. It kind of goes with the pedigree thing, but it also kind of goes with the fact that it just ticks me off every time I see somebody use it incorrectly. So, all right, I'll do my best to not say anything else.
Yeah, no, in lieu, as I was always taught, is intended to just say, in the old days we would monument the maps before they were recorded, and sometimes you promise you're gonna set iron pipe, and then you realize that there's actually a curb built right where you need to set your monument, or or your PL is right at the back of sidewalk, and you have to set a PL prod, which PL prod is like a whole separate addition where you might need a corner record or a certificate of correction. But the idea of the monument is, hey, yeah, it's still me setting the monument. However, I have to set a different monument. So therefore, there's still a little bit of an implied guarantee that it came from the same person from the same original survey rather than from another different survey, which could have its own set of errors and differences and coming from different directions. So it's a relatively important distinction to make. And I'd like to read a couple more comments that are in the chat that are very relevant. David Woolley mentioned the Business and Professions Code 8764 is a good guide for every monument description. And it says all monuments found, set, reset, replaced, or removed, describing their kind, size, location, and giving other data relating hereto. And here's something that I usually push here in the office, where I supervise a lot of the mapping, is we want to say, and thank you, Mike Hernandez, for mentioning this. We want to say what the monument is set in: asphalt, concrete, dirt, on the post. How big is the post? What is the post made out of? We want to say what we did with this particular monument, and I call those acceptance statements. Like, I accepted this monument as the centerline intersection per such and such record, right? Because just finding the monument doesn't graphically, sure, you put center lines running through it. Um, we love to see it verbalize what you actually decided to do with this monument. And sometimes, if you were in doubt with this monument about this monument, put that in your monument notes as well. It's okay to put the background thinking in as well, especially if it starts taking a form of retracement notes. And we will probably have a whole another section on retracement notes. Just remember that phrase, and we're going to have arguments about that later. Um, and let's see. Somebody has a question. What if you were find a monument matching the exact description, but also says REPL? I'm assuming that means replaced, with no records found, or to reference replaced monument. Would that be no reference or something else? I will give you my point of view. Anytime you cannot identify a monument because there's no stamping on it, there's no number, it casts aspersions to whether this is the right monument or not. And this is why, for example, sometimes it's good to say material, pipe diameter. Dave Woolley will tell you want to do it inside pipe diameter if you know the material of the pipe. The tags, is it a brass tag? Is it aluminum tag? Is it what is the size of the tag? I also like to tell my crews, I often want to know, and I mandate that we take photos of every single monument that we search. And I also ask for the photos of every single hole that we dug out where we didn't find a monument, so I can prove that we looked hard. I want to know the condition of that monument. I want to know if it's in poor condition. So, maybe, if it's half rusted and a little wobbly, it's very possible it's disturbed or that it's not going to give you a precise location. However, even if the precise location may not be good, it may still be the original monument that you have to hold. So there's a lot of finesse that we have to pay attention to when we're tracking monument pedigrees.
Now, Corey also put in there, he asked, there's another question saying stamping is identical to what is called out in an older reference. So how would you treat that one? Would that be an in lieu of? Question mark?
If a monument is different, but the stamping is identical, that's probably the question is a little bit vague, but I'm assuming that this means you're finding a spike and washer with a stamping called out on the older reference, and the older reference says that this should be an iron pipe. In this case, this is an in lieu monument because it's the same original surveyor. You're going to most likely assume that it's from the same original survey. It's just when they were planning the map versus when they were actually out there in the field, they made a decision to set a different monument.
So I think what Corey's actually asking is he found, like, it says they set a spike and washer with their LS number. He finds the spike and washer with that LS number, but it has the extra stamping of REPL. And he's wanting to know, does that make it no reference because it has added stamping than what the record shows? Steve Martin pointed out, and I kind of said the same thing. My first instinct would be to see if you can contact that surveyor. See if they're still active. Can you contact them? Because a lot of times what that means is there may be a corner record or something in progress, or it's a job that they just recently went back and replaced that monument for. I will say I put that note on maps. Hey, you found this no reference monument. This is an LS that's active right now. Did you try to contact them? That's one of the things. I know people have contacted our company being like, hey, I found your monument. I don't have any record for it. And we'll send them preliminary. Oh, here's our preliminary corner record that we just submitted in the county. Sometimes it takes time for these things to record, especially if it's that so close to the original monument. That would be my first thing to do. If you can't contact them, I note that it has an extra thing. I'd probably accept it as, or maybe include the in lieu of, but that's where it kind of gets a little gray. But I definitely, my first instinct would be to contact the surveyor. It's just a little bit.
Whenever it's outside of what we have as these little common conventions, your best course is to describe exactly what you did. You can even because you're not limited to, oh my God, just what you find at county records. No, describe exactly what you did. I recently have a map where it was done. I'm doing it in an area that we have previously surveyed, and there's a subdivision next door. Actually, I'm sorry, I'm lying. It's not a subdivision, but we worked on monument preservation for one of the counties. And unfortunately, my record of survey is now going to be recorded, and it's heading, project is going to be finished long before the monument preservation cycle has run through. So I'm basically putting on my record of survey that I am finding monument per such and such record from our internal MBI records, and then I'm literally putting a blurb on there that this monument has been set as in the process of monument preservation, and it's expected to record in the future. Because what else am I going to tell you? It's not every situation is going to be ideal. So basically, describe what you did, describe what you're thinking, so that the surveyor coming after you, in my case, for example, when they see that I held a monument and this monument is now finally recorded a year later, once the county has processed the corner records, they're going to say, oh yeah, okay, that's got to be the same monument. They knew about it, they accepted it because they knew about it. So they're going to have a comfort level with that next monument being the same thing. So
I think, Connie, just to kind of put a stamp on this part of it, I mean, I think one of the main things to take away is if you have questions like this about, monument stamping or the way to reference things on a map or, other things of that nature, we have a professional practices committee as your chapter with CLSA. You can always email the PPC members with these questions and just ask how they would do it. It's a group of surveyors that are part of the chapter as well, and I'm sure they would be happy to provide some sort of guidance or, some opinion that could help you with some of these questions that you may have about, these situations we all get in all the time. So just throw that out there for everybody to know that it's available to you as a dues-paying member of the chapter.
And thank you, Bryan, for that. This is actually one of the reasons why these joint professional practices committees exist. They're not there just to police the practices and turn you into the board. That's actually the last thing they want to do. These are volunteers with a lot of technical expertise who are here to help the survey community, because we're all going in the same direction. We want our surveys to be good. We want our surveys to be retraced. We're here to serve the public and protect their property interests. And the more diligent we are, the better we serve the public. So let's move on now, Bryan, that you've interjected. This is a good segue for you to tell us a little bit about Eaton Fire and what you guys had to go through.
Yeah, so if you all don't know, we had some pretty significant fires here in LA County in January. We had the Palisades fire and the Eaton fire. Just background, so you know, I work for LA County Public Works. I'm one of 3 field engineers that we have with Survey, and we have 3 yards that we operate out of. There's about 50 field personnel. I work out of Irwindale area, Irwindale-Longden. We have one in North Hollywood and one down in, in Downey, Southgate area. So those 3 yards service the entire unincorporated area of LA County for any kind of survey matters. So when these fires came about, we had our director of public works actually come to us and say, hey, we want to figure out a way that we can help with the rebuilding process. And that was, for us, a way to perpetuate monuments. So we came up with a plan on how we could do this work. It was a 4-step process, because the end goal for our director was the possibility of actually filing individual property surveys for all lots that were in the Eaton and Palisades fire areas, unincorporated areas. Wanted to know what the cost would be for that. And that was our final phase. We are not going to get to our final phase. That is something that we're leaving up to the private surveying community to be able to perform that work for individual property owners. However, we did get through a couple of phases of our work. Phase 1 was the recovery of any monument that is at the surface, both in the Eaton and Palisades fire areas, that is within the unincorporated territory of LA County. We finished phase 1. And phase 2, we went on to finding any monuments that were below surface. And when I say any monuments, I mean centerline monumentation, just to be clear. So any centerline monumentation that was below the surface, we recovered. If it was not there, we made note of it. And phase 3 was supposed to be us resetting any potential monuments that have been destroyed. We are still waiting to hear on that, on what we're going to do moving forward, if that's going to be part of our process or if we're going to rely upon the private community to reset those monuments as they do their survey work. But one of the things that I wanted to show everybody is what we've done online to make this available to anybody doing work in the area. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's see here. Entire screen is what I want. And let's share that one. Okay. So if you were to go on the first of all, everybody can see my screen okay, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So if you're going to go on the LA County Land Records website or Land Records information site, on the left-hand side of the screen, we've added another layer, and it's Eaton Palisades GNSS records. These records, if we zoom out, I'm more focused on the Eaton area. However, there are green squares that are in the Palisades area that are for unincorporated LA County. These green squares represent records that we have taken during the Eaton fire recovery. And if you were to click on any of them, they are indexed just like our field notes. And when you do click on them, they come up with a data sheet that looks like this. And that data sheet will tell you the date that we were out there. You know, not that it's relevant to you guys, but who we had as a field operator out there doing the work. A brief monument description, as well as a reference. So the previous reference per one of our Public Works field books will also be on this. General centerline location, datum we used, and it will contain a latitude and longitude and a state plane coordinate, northing and easting. Now, one important thing to note about these is the methodology that was used to create these coordinate values was essentially CRTN or localized RTK. So we had 6 base stations that were operating every day within county facilities, creating a grid that would allow for baselines of less than 1.5 miles from any known point that we were going to occupy. Our occupation times on each one of our centerline monuments was around the 8-minute mark. And we did that twice a day. So you would get different constellations on top of everything else going on with it. We're trying to build this workout to where maybe we could use it for other purposes. But on top of that, you did get pictures. They're not the greatest quality pictures just because of how quickly we had to move on our project. I would have loved to have gotten cameras that we could use that are county property that we could keep and be able to take excellent quality pictures. These pictures came straight from the data collector themselves. And these forms themselves were automated through the processing of this data in Trimble Business Center. So you will see some generalized photos of location of the point, what it's set in. Depending upon the monument, you may even be able to read the stamping itself. One thing to note is that if you contact us, we do have higher quality photos than what shows up on here. You can zoom into them a little bit better. Realize these notes are scanned originals. So the quality of them may not be as good as the original note that was indexed, nor is it as good as just the raw photo that's taken out of the data collector. So note that we do have a statement on the layer itself under the horizontal datum. If you read this note, basically what it's telling you is the quality of the coordinate that we're giving you is good enough for GIS based upon a specification that was written by the California Spatial Reference Center. And what that means in general terms is plus or minus about, it's right around 1/10 or so. We're finding that it's much better than that. We're actually starting to get some work in these areas where we've already done this monumentation, and we're traversing conventionally around a block and finding that we're within a few hundredths of what we originally have as our coordinate values on these points. So the overall quality has been pretty good, but that's not to say we don't have outliers, and we don't want to stick our neck out too far with that either. Now, the other part of this that I wanted to show was something that I think is also rather important. If you go down below, we've added a new area to search with, and that's where you can search by fire perimeter. So say, for instance, I wanted to search for corner records that are within the Eaton fire area in the year 2025. I can go ahead and search, and it will query all corner records that have been filed in the Eden fire area this year. You can do the same thing for records of survey. So if I wanted to search for records of survey that have been filed from the beginning of the year until today's date, I go ahead and search that, and it will come up with all of the records of survey that have been filed. Now, because of the way that my window is done, it's a little funky on the how many are showing in each line. Know that your computer may look a little different than mine, may show a few more than what I'm showing here. But what's great about it too is, say you wanted to know where this record of survey was. You simply click on the icon, and it will zoom in to the area for that record of survey. So you'll be able to see what lot it takes care of, or maybe a neighborhood. And of course, you can always just click and view on it, view the actual document itself that was indexed. So our work that we've done throughout unincorporated LA County has really been, I don't want to share anything anymore. How do I stop sharing? It doesn't allow me to stop sharing.
You stop sharing.
Did I? Thank
Yeah.
goodness. All right. So realistically, this work, we used the Monument Preservation Fund for all of this work that we did in both the Eden and Palisades fire area. To date, it cost around, to give you a round number, between $800,000 and $900,000 to do this work. And we started as soon as we could get in there, beginning of February, and we just finished about 2 weeks ago. So it was an extensive amount of work that we did in these areas. We are trying to serve the surveying, private side of surveying as much as possible. Hopefully these records will provide you some better insight as to what's going to be available to you out there when you're doing your lot retracement surveys. And one thing that I want to add, and then Tony, I'll take your question, is something that I think we all need to be aware of. There's a lot of folks out there surveying right now in the Eden and Palisades area. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot. I don't drive by one intersection or one corner where I can't spot a surveyor right now in the private industry. Now, we've had our pains with this. I will let you know that although we're not the police, we are out there taking note of who's out there and what they're doing and how they're doing this work, and making sure that they're keeping the community in a good standing situation. One problem that we've run into that I would encourage, I don't think anybody on this call would do this, but so preaching to the choir, but one issue that we've run into is we've had folks that have left well monuments open. They've left the lid for a well off to the side of the road, and they've left the well open and exposed for, a day, 2 days, 3 days, a week. And we get those calls as survey for public works. And it's a call that we have to send a crew out. They have to go try and find the lid. Hopefully it's still there. I'll get into that in a second. And if it is, they replace it and then they move on and do their next thing. It's more of an inconvenience for us than anything else, because we'd love to be serving the public in a different way other than replacing or putting monument well lids back in the ground. Now, that's the other side of it, is we can go out there and we don't find the lid. And we've actually figured out one of the reasons we don't find it. Scrap metal collectors have been seeing these well monument lids and collecting them and taking them to a scrap yard. As a county, we are taking the hit on the cost to actually replace those well lids. So our vans are stocked, and if we can't find a lid, guess what? There's another, $60, $70 down the drain that we had to use to replace a well monument lid. We love to be using those for other cases versus just replacing an existing well monument. So with that, I think, for us as a county, monument perpetuation is incredibly important. We do it on all of our design jobs, all of our construction work. is very well monitored on making sure that monuments are both tied out pre-construction and then put back in the ground post-construction. And then this Eaton Fire area and Palisades area, we've really tried to help y'all out as much as we could. But if there is anything else that you need, we are a wealth of information for you. We encourage you to call us, come to the public counter. We would love to see you, hear from you, be able to help you in some way, shape, or form, be able to get your work done in the area. Now, as for the city of LA, I don't know what the city of LA is planning to do in their areas, both Palisades and, basically the Palisades area. They haven't really been very vocal about that. So I think your best bet to figure out what the city of LA is doing is pretty much to contact the city of LA and ask them directly what they're doing to help perpetuate monuments in accordance with the laws, in accordance with Business and Professions Code, what they're doing to facilitate that post-fire. That would be your best bet. Tony, you've had your hand up for a while. Your arm's probably tired.
No. I just want to compliment you on your efforts. One of the most important things that agencies do is feed the fire on monument preservation, and no pun intended. And Stantec was involved up in the Montecito area, and we're currently involved in Lahaina, working with the agencies to do the same exact thing. And I just hats off. It's a great service to us, which in turn benefits the public immensely. So fantastic.
Thank you.
Yes.
It's been a fun project to be a part of, and I've really enjoyed it. And I can't take all the credit. We definitely worked together to make it happen. And Mike Corderoli was somewhat of an important part in having a conversation with to see what they did up in Sonoma, that area, after their fires. And really, we wanted to take it to the next step. Sonoma County, they really depended upon a lot on their private surveying community to put all this together. Just a couple of things for you all, if you are going to be doing work in the Eaton or Palisades area. Some ideas for you to try and help out both the survey community, but also help yourself with your business. I would encourage you, if you plan on doing a lot of work in these areas, get yourself some yard signs. Put them in the yard that the survey work for this lot was done by XYZ surveyor, right? You would be incredibly surprised at how many calls you will get for folks that want their surveys done both in that same block, but then in surrounding blocks as well. I find that that's going to be a really important part of this work as we rebuild, is to hopefully have the same organization or be able to communicate with each other on what work has been done and where. And what's really important about those yard signs, one, it's good for your business to get some exposure, but it's also good for the private surveying community, because if I'm doing the lot next door and I know you did that work on the other lot, it would be much more prudent for me to give you a call and say, hey, I'm doing the lot next door. Where, tell me about this area. What's going on? Can you share your information, just so you create harmony within the block? We don't want to create these situations where folks are going to get incredibly litigious because we've had Surveyor A and Surveyor B out there, and neither of them wants to break down and say that one is correct over the other one, right? So those yard signs and those kind of things that you can put in the neighborhoods definitely will help out, I think, everybody within our community. And I would encourage you all to be willing to share, right? Don't try and hold your data hostage. It's a free market economy in a way, and everybody's entitled to work. And please be a professional about it, I think, is the best way to put it. Try and be cordial and share, and know that the work that you're doing is, albeit you're trying to make a profit, but above all else, we're trying to serve the public. We're trying to protect the public, and this is the way that we can do that. So, without any further questions, that's pretty much what I got for the day.
Well, thank you, Brian. I'm really glad that you mentioned harmony as well, and especially now with the fire and so many lines of occupation being obliterated, preserving the harmony is going to be even more challenging and probably more important because you know, walls and fences, that's questionable how many have survived. I do have one more question for you. As far as the condition of the monuments and how they fared through the fire, what kind of challenges have you guys encountered as you're surveying through the areas?
So the Eaton Fire area, we're very fortunate in the fact that I would say the vast majority of the intersections are well monuments out there. So they have survived incredibly well. There's not a lot of damage now. That's not to say that the ties haven't been destroyed through the course of the fire and reconstruction. And at this point, that wasn't part of our work. We realized the amount of time that was going to take. Um, with the, I'm going to say, constraints budget wise that we had. um, it wasn't there. That was part of what we were going to be doing in our next phases, was going back out and retying these monuments. Now, we did make note of the ties that do exist out there, so we know what's there. It's just a matter of, we didn't set any new ties for any of the missing ones, because if you don't know LA County, we're a big advocate of tangent over ties. Those are the types that we set, our tangent over. So, if we were missing one, we'd want to reset it, right? And we'd want to reset a tangent over, not a swing tie. So the monuments there have been in relatively good shape. I think out of I'm going to say we found close to 800 monuments between Eaton and Palisades. I would say that of that group, the ones that have crossed my desk, I've had maybe 3 or 4 that were monuments that were either damaged or destroyed due to fire related activities. Heads popped off, bent because of a loader, those types of things. So a very, very small percentage were actually harmed or damaged or disturbed during the fire. When it comes to center line, I can't speak on property corners and track corners and things of that nature.
Yeah, that's quite extraordinary and a testament to the previous efforts of setting durable monuments that can withstand a lot of wear and tear and damage, and in this case, natural disasters. That's excellent. Very good news.
Yeah, and we got another comment that I want to bring up, because we actually were an advocate of this when it comes to our work. Is plastic caps are not durable monuments. Period. End of story. So for us as a county, we don't set them. Any of our consultants that we use, we don't allow them to set them. We're working on figuring out how we can get into either our local ordinance or some other way to basically get rid of plastic caps altogether within LA County. As you know, with agencies, things take time, so bear with us. But it is something that's on our mind and something that we're trying to address. And completely agree. Plastic cap is not a durable monument.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much, David. David. Oh my God, Brian.
It's all right.
Really appreciate you. Really appreciate you coming here and talking about this. If any of you think of any additional questions, please share them in the chat, and we are going to move on. We have Kevin Hills and David McMillan who are going to be talking a little bit about the monument databases, and also please Dave McMillan, please feel free to add your angle. David McMillan is the Riverside County Surveyor, and I know a lot of the companies practice across several counties here. It's always good to know that there are little subtle differences between counties and county surveyor philosophies. So Dave McMillan, please feel free to interject to the other discussions and give the County of Riverside point of view as well. Anyhow,
I can piggyback off of Brian's sentiments on the plastic plugs. Yeah, so we sent a memo out a few years ago, kind of reiterating that to the professional community that plastic plugs aren't durable monuments, and we changed our ordinance for the unincorporated areas of the county. We for final maps, for records of survey, we encourage the community to do the same. We can't really force their hand on doing that. We can recommend it. But as far as final maps, tracks, and parcel maps, per our ordinance, we require, durable monuments that are in our ordinance. And plastic plugs aren't one of them. So, and we practice what we preach to as well with our team, survey team, and consultants as well. So.
I want to add a quick little thing. On occasion, we map check maps for the County of Riverside, and for example, on a record of survey, a county surveyor cannot compel you to set a certain monument. However, when I map check the maps, you are very likely to get a green comment. Green comments that I put on the maps are usually what's not required, but it's a recommendation as best practices that basically explains that in fire-prone areas, plastic caps are not considered durable monuments. I do realize that on a record of survey, often you're filing the map after you've already set the monuments, but these notes serve as a tool to basically propagate the information out there in hopes that, people will take this into consideration for the future. Tony, you have your hand up.
Yeah, the law says permanent, and permanent has a pretty definite definition, and plastic caps aren't permanent. I would tend to maybe swing a bigger hammer at this issue in the map checks phase and say that that's not an acceptable monument. I wouldn't have any problem putting that comment on a map. And it doesn't have to be fire prone area. There's not a lot of fires out here in Arizona because there's really nothing that can burn, but we come up across plastic cap monuments that are just mush. They're just melted. And then there was no fire. It was just that it was 119 degrees, for 8 months straight. So I would urge not only the agency people, but those professionals who are checking the maps to really press this issue in your review of the map. It's not permanent. Law says permanent. Plastic isn't permanent. You didn't answer up. Go set something else. Just my 2 cents. Again.
Yeah, I think most of us would probably fall in that category. I think a lot of us also do need to consider that, while we are accustomed to practicing in Southern California, often we're, if we're trying to change the law, we have to consider all of the regional differences. So sometimes, you get Imperial County where with their climate, the wear and tear of metal and plastic and wood is very different. Then also there's considerations in certain mountainous areas and especially in the Northern California and a little bit in Big Bear. So there's quite a bit of a variety. But I did ask recently, um, I forget who it is, but I was asking about an opinion. What exactly do you guys consider a durable monument? And the answer is durable monument is whatever most surveyors in your area of practice consider to be a durable monument. So if you're setting, let's say, plastic caps all over Los Angeles County and in most surveyors in that county, including the JPPLC in that county, does not consider a plastic cap to be a durable monument, you could still have issues, somebody could report you to the board and say, hey, you're not setting the durable monument. The board potentially could say, okay, so what does the local JPPLC think? The local JPPLC could issue an opinion saying, no, in LA County, plastic caps are horrible. They don't wear well. They will melt. Things will happen. People will pop them off. They fall apart under heat, and all kinds of things happen to them. I mean, maybe there's also people collecting them because they're easier to pop off. So no, they're not considered a durable monument. It's not always necessary for the PLS Act to spell it out in detail. Anyway, Tony Cuomo, back to you.
Yeah. Not buying the everybody does it makes it right argument. Um, I don't think that that should be the bellwether of what is permanent. If you have a monument that can be affected by climate, it's not permanent. If you have a monument that could be affected by traffic, it's not permanent. If you're using something that is a character that won't stand the test of time, regardless of whether it's a fire zone or a mountain zone or a coastal zone or a desert zone or an any zone, it's just not permanent. It's not good practice. And I would urge people to not make law behind their desk, but to use the existing wording in the current laws and start to change the course of the ship. Sometimes a little storm is a good thing. So, I'm pretty shy about that stuff. So
I would just say, Connie, I would say for sure, just following Tony and Dave. I mean, look, at the end of the day, you know, we're putting a monument in the ground for a future surveyor, right? It's not for convenience for the surveyor that's putting the monument at the time. It's this future surveyor that's going to go out and retrace that monument. And if plastic cap is going to be, hit by somebody digging up, trying to locate a monument or a fire or whatever, that's not permanent. So really should be, okay, if it's a convenience, use an aluminum cap. You use something, maybe you lose a steel, but I mean, it's not because you don't want to carry concrete up to a location to put, a tag. It's really what's the future going to hold. So, I completely agree. And I don't know how much time we got, Connie, for our section, but we'll try to go through it real quick here.
We're slated to run to 1:30.
1:30? Okay. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to kind of piggyback on what Tony was saying. I really think that's probably the essence of what surveyors, I think made a pretty good, elegant comment about the communication. What we're trying to do. What are surveyors today? What do we do? We use a medium called a map, and that map is a communication device for somebody that's working on a project, or an engineer or another surveyor or whatever. It's a medium that we have to, that's how we communicate information. And monuments, again, like others have said, are how we stake a actual map to the ground for somebody to understand where that location is. And then, as a county surveyor, prior to coming to Michael Baker International, I've had lots of debates with people in the past about why do we need to set monuments? What's the point of a monument? I can calculate it using GIS. I can calculate it through Civil 3D. So there's so many things that we can do. Well, you know what? Monuments are the essence of a surveyor. They're the one there. That is one tangible item that we leave behind that somebody else can follow, and the property owner, the engineer, they can see that in the field versus trying to say, well, here's a map. Here's your property corner. Go out and find it yourself. I mean, that's it's kind of a interesting philosophy. And then I would just also say 8077 1.6 just came out. It's a sunset law, but it came out that, so if we find anything that we're accepting as a corner, a pipe, a tag, a pipe, a chiseled X, lead and tack, whatever, the new law says that we have to rehabilitate it. So that means rehabilitating it to today's standard would be a tag, and adding a tag. So I've had conversations with others in the past also about chiseled X's as ties. And chiseled X's as tie is great, but after 20, 30 years, a chiseled X and a mark of a sewer line or a scrape on a curb doesn't really give you confidence that that corner or that point is a tie. So if there's not a huge big difference to actually set, a epoxy tag or drill a lead and put a tag in a corner. So that's my getting off my soapbox here. What Dave McMillan and I are part of, there's a group, it's called the League of California Surveying Organizations. And Dave is he's the chair of that. And we've been working with our peers within Southern California and Northern California about creating, some type of new type of device. As Bryan showed earlier, he's got the monument recovery sheets. What we want to try to do is create a monument app that is available to all CLSA members, and it will have the same type of feature. You can load it up. It'll be a map that has all of the points that people have found prior, and the app will be something that you'll go out with your smartphone, if it's an Android or phone or iPhone, and be able to take a photo. And at least when you're there, document the condition, but also having that photo is so valuable. And, it will give you that information of, spike and washer, what the size is, what material it's in, everything else. So there's some things that we're working on that for CLSA members, I think this would be a huge benefit of being able to have that app on your phone. And I'll push it over to Dave to maybe talk about Save Our Survey Monuments and the things that we've been doing with monument preservation in CLSA and LCSO.
Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, and Brian's put in the chat Survey 123. Yeah, those are tools, and Esri has field maps, which is kind of a newer version, incorporate Survey 123 in it. We're in the process in our committee creating a questionnaire that we want to send out to CLSA members to see what kind of app do we want, and what kind of information do we want to see, and really it's not super hard to create the app, but it is something where do we want it to be available to CLSA members only? Encourage membership, encourage folks to take pride in collecting these positions. Then we'll be able to know who's photo that's tied to, who submitted monuments and things like that. I think it'll really help in the preservation side, because there are a lot of monuments that are getting destroyed in cities, counties across the state, and this would be a statewide monument reporting app, so it wouldn't just be in the county of Riverside, it'd be statewide. So I think it would just be really helpful to see hey, where are monuments getting paved over, and then there's no accessories on them. Those would be easy to document, take photos. Then you have areas where you'd see paved streets with no monuments, and then it'd be easy for those to get elevated and sent to the proper folks to investigate and make sure that those monuments are getting set. So we're working on this. It's evolving, but we are making some progress on it, and we do meet as a committee next week to discuss this topic and see what's going on. We have a pretty good group that's part of our team, so we're well represented, and we have good discussions, and it's not a old thing. Monuments are, but the topic has been around forever, and we're here still talking about this, and it seems like we spend a lot of time here talking about monuments. So I think they are important to us, and we need to preserve them, protect them, and educate the public about them. And it shows what we do as a professional community. We're putting these monuments in the ground, and they're representing something that's meaningful, that's important for future generations, and for the livelihood of folks that use them. So anyway, that's kind
And I
of
think it's we could probably talk like Dave said, we could probably go on for about 4 hours for the monument. This is always the highest, one of the number one topics that we typically have, but it's also continuous education, continuous education of city engineers, county engineers, of the importance. And I think things are changing over the years when the law came into place requiring engineers to actually set monuments, or sorry, preserve them, or their license was on the line. That really made a big change. So there's been a lot of change over the years, and I think things are happening. But again, this isn't something that's just one and done. It's a continuous education effort. And county surveyors, I know people sometimes grumble about the county surveyors, and damn it, I'm on the private side now. You damn county surveyors, what are you doing to us? But I will say this: the county surveyors are part of the community. They want to make sure that we're following the rules, and they are the ones that are basically carrying the weight for the other public agencies to understand the importance of monuments. So I just want to give Dave and the other county surveyors here their kudos for the efforts that they're doing. So
Yeah, county surveyors and all the office staff. And one other thing I want to mention, that LCSO, I think was that with Dave, you in the lead, putting out a brochure titled Save Our Monuments that is available through state CLSA. Did you want to mention that for a couple of minutes? What's in that brochure, and encourage people to review it?
Yeah. So the brochure, it is on CLSA's page, and there's a link to it under monument preservation. So there's a guide that we created in a brochure to send out to city engineers, public works, department heads, just anybody that wants to get educated on what a monument is, what does it say in the law to protect them. And so yeah, our guide's there to showcase, the like I said, the idea of preserving monuments. Not new, not a new idea, but it's something that is important, and we're just kind of sharing it in a different way.
Yeah, and this is as Kevin and Dave have mentioned, a lot of times monuments get knocked out during the construction. In our region in Southern California, centerline monuments, a lot of properties are controlled by centerline monuments, so it affects not just public works, it affects a lot of private properties. And anytime a monument is knocked out and somebody sets it later or doesn't find it, or it's not reset from ties, that goes back to the monument pedigree and starts to compromise the monument pedigree, because you lose track of who's done what. And in case of any little mismatches that happen, because things don't always come out 100%, mistakes, blunders do happen, even inadvertently. When you have a broken monument pedigree, it creates potential problems. It creates, in worst cases, gaps or overlaps, or litigation over property boundaries, and those are the kinds of things that could be astronomically expensive. And there are little things that we can do now in our everyday practice that avoids this in the future, all with which is what we're tasked to do, is protect the public. With that, Jay and David, you guys are with the County of Orange, deal with corner records all the time. And you are one of the bastions of preserving the monument pedigree and trying to perpetuate this. And I do know that you have quite a few challenges that you handle at the county level. Why don't you tell us a little bit just about, what's the deal with corner records? Why do we even file them, especially for our younger colleagues here?
Well, I wish Jay was here so he could take this, but
Oh,
unfortunately,
Jay had to
he had to head
I'm
out. So
sorry.
I'll do my best to give some input here. We file corner records so that we have the perpetuation of those monuments, of the pedigree of those monuments, and especially as we're talking about pre-construction and post-construction corner records. This is the way that we continue this pedigree of the monumentation. I look at corner records all day long, and there's not a day that goes by, just like today was, when we looked at 3 different corner records and 2 record of surveys on one intersection, only to find that the monument had been changed almost every time. It went from a spike to a concrete monument, to a lead and tack in a well monument, to a brass pin, back to a spike. And so getting the descriptions right is one of the hardest things that we have to do. And Kevin's right. The monumentation discussion, preservation is always a hot topic. And it partially goes back to just what's the description of your monuments. Taking a picture of your monument is one of the best things that you can do, your crew can do, to help you with that description of your monument and getting that correct on the corner record. We're looking at the corner records to see that is the pedigree there, not only of the monument itself, but of the ties of the auxiliary monuments that are around there. Are they tagged? Do they have references? Every time I find a corner record that has a no reference monument, that's when I really start looking at it more closely. Okay, where is the reference for that? What map set that monument? Or where do the ties come from? They're out there typically someplace, but sometimes it takes more digging, and sometimes we don't have the time in our projects. When I ran my own company for over 20 years, you didn't always have the time to do that research. You're under the gun. You've got billing to be made and other projects to get on. And so that's why research seems to be one of the other thing that's missing in a lot of the corner records, whether it's an 8765D boundary reestablishment corner record or the 8771 pre-construction and post-construction corner records. And I love what I do. I will help any private surveyor, anyone who wants to communicate with me, explain what we're looking for, what we're looking at, and how I can help you. But communication, as was explained before, is one of the biggest things. Communicate with me, talk to me, let me know what you need and how I can help you. And I'll do everything I can to help you get your project done, because you want to get your project done. I want to get your project done too. I'm closing in on 7,000 corner records in front of me in some form of beginning, middle, or end. And we've got staff retiring and all the other things. So communicate with me. I'll help you out any way that I can. And with that, Connie, I'll send it back to you.
Well, thank you, Dave. We really appreciate it. That boggles the mind, 7,000 corner records.
Right.
But they're important. Like I said, especially when you start running into no reference monuments, sometimes monuments do get set in a wrong place. Sometimes there's differences of opinions when you set a monument and there's no reference to it, there's no pedigree to it, which makes it easy to reject. So you can, in hindsight, you're looking at what's the point of even setting that monument, and you definitely did not, who, if you said that, obviously you've said that monument on behalf of somebody, you did not protect your customer, you did not protect who hired you, you're not protecting the public. If we don't do this, we're not fully doing our jobs basically, if I may go on a tangent and be so harsh.
But it's a great problem to have. I mean, I take my hat off to Kevin Hills for helping to push along the thought that, okay, you got to do pre and post construction corner records. Yeah, we got a lot, and we don't, and we get behind with things. But Kevin was the one that I feel like he really pushed more of the companies to say, okay, get the pre-construction done, get the post-construction done. And so it shows that we have a lot of surveyors in Orange County that are doing their due diligence, doing what they're supposed to do. Yeah, not always, missing some of the descriptions or not always having some of the reference, but I can help you there. And so it's a good problem to have, and we're not losing as many monuments, I feel, as we could. And the second point I like to put out, I know, Kevin, yeah, right, is that here in Orange County, we've been fortunate on some of our repavement projects in the unincorporated areas, where Elliott has been able to get funding to replace many of these monuments with well monuments. With well monuments. And so it's been great, his effort to get more well monuments set in the unincorporated areas, so we have fewer of these problems with monuments being totally destroyed. So that's all I got.
Wonderful.
I just wanted to say, David, appreciate the acknowledgement, but I was actually just following in the footsteps of a very great county surveyor, John Canis, who actually instituted a lot of these programs of no plastic caps and, pre and post construction corner records and a lot of other things that we are beneficiaries of today, because, people in our past put some really good policies in place, and that's what we look forward to our counties and others in going forward, is putting these important policies in place that will benefit the community. So keep pushing.
Yeah, we get to carry it today, and we get to educate our young professionals and our future leaders to carry the torch forward. So I want to thank everybody so much for coming. I'm very heartened that we have an exceptionally high turnout here. When I made the decision to change up the format, I was afraid everybody was going to be super mad and nobody was going to show up. And we have, oh my God, 60 people here. So I really appreciate all of you coming. I appreciate all of you being you and interested in this topic and your investment in CLSA. What we're going to do is, this was recorded. Once the recording has been processed, we will make it available on Facebook and on LinkedIn. I invite you to share this recording with your peers, and I also invite you to continue these discussions on Facebook and on LinkedIn, because this is a broad topic. There's going to be questions, there's going to be ideas, there's going to be obviously different opinions. We do want to see all of those. This helps all of us. When what JPPLC is working, we also at CLSA, we consider legislative actions and how to change the law. The more we hear from our practitioners, the more we can accommodate everybody while including the best practices, ideas in the whole situation. So it's our duty to also be informed. So please help us stay informed. Please help us understand the challenges that you see in your daily practices. And with that, I will leave this running in case anybody wants to discuss things for about another 5 or 10 minutes. But for those of you who need to go, I will give you 2 minutes back of your time for today. And thank you for coming.
Thanks, Connie. Thanks for setting this up.
Thanks, Connie. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Connie. Really appreciate you putting this together.